Welcome back, everybody. Strange things are going on in the games industry. I do have one fantastic game for you to check out today. However, we do have pretty damn bad news coming out of Epic. We have the big question of what the hell's going on with the Knights of the Old Republic remake. We have the risk of Rebrand hitting Electronic Arts, a new top graphics card being in town, and yeah, sad news from BioWare that, as a fan of Mass Effect, doesn't fill me with the most confidence. Unlike the launch of The Pale Beyond on the Nintendo Switch. So, our video game, The Pale Beyond, is now out on Switch. It's also out on Steam. I believe in Switch, we're currently 30% off if you want to pick it up there. The links will be down below on the description. You can, of course, find it on the eShop if you want an adventure narrative survival role-playing game. It's a damn good time if you want to cozy up with a story, so check it out to support us. And with that said, let's roll. Epic Games then, we've got to talk about them. They've had absolutely massive layoffs. Tim Sweeney's actually spoken a little bit more recently about them, but there's a strange way we're getting into this story, and it is Hatoful Boyfriend, which you probably didn't think would pop up in today's video, but here we are. Here's the deal. Hatomoa developed that game ages ago on her own, but to bring it to like the international audience, right, to get it in English, that was done with Mediatonic. Mediatonic are the people who developed Fall Guys, and in 2021, Mediatonic got slurped up by Epic Games because, of course, mergers and acquisitions, that was all the business back then. An unfortunate thing of that, actually, is the game's iOS, Android, and PlayStation versions were pulled. But what's happened is, now, after the mass layoffs at Mediatonic, she has actually said that she stopped receiving royalty checks. Not now, but 2 years ago when the acquisition happened. Now, it's likely to not be much revenue, but the point is that these royalty checks stopping basically means that either Epic dropped the ball when it came to, keeping up on commitments with companies that they've bought, or, just generally stuff fell between the cracks, which is quite bizarre. Now, someone at Epic has actually caught wind of this, and they are looking to solve the problem, but still, a weird thing, just a little glimpse into the sorts of chaos that can go on. Now, as for those layoffs themselves, a fairly interesting thing has happened. So basically, at a developer conference, Tim Sweeney has been talking, right? And he actually addressed the issue of the layoffs in a part of it that actually wasn't streamed publicly, but somebody did post it on X here, so it's quite interesting. Here's a bit of a quote. "This wasn't a right sizing. I think we were in the right size, and I loved our original plans," Sweeney explained. "This was a survival move that was necessary, and what we did accomplish, the one thing is we stabilized our finances so we won't run out of money as we build the metaverse." Yes, of course, the metaverse is, it's where everyone wants to go, because everyone wants to be a platform company. It's just like with Valve. Valve are a platform company because people sell games on Steam, right? What people basically want is a very large metaverse that is ran on their fundamental technology, and that all of the economy that happens on that metaverse is something that they maybe get, a 30%, 20%, 10%, whatever it is, cut off. Of course, Valve are just thinking, we did it with a storefront. Look how much money all you losers have got to pour into the metaverse just to get what I, Gaben, already have. And this is something that we're seeing across quite a few companies. I mean, take Embracer Group, right? A large amount of investment from Savvy Games Group fell through, and then it turned out like they weren't really generating the revenue that they wanted. They started cutting costs, having, restructuring across so many different wings of their business. There's rumors that they might even spin out Gearbox, which is pretty damn crazy. Now, this is what Tim Sweeney said in and around the time. "As we shared earlier, we're laying off around 16% of Epic employees, we're divesting Bandcamp and spinning off most of Super Awesome. For a while now, we've been spending way more than we earn, investing it in the evolution of Epic and growing Fortnite as a metaverse-inspired ecosystem for creators." Now, that might seem crazy to you, but you've got to remember basically the Unreal Engine editor Fortnite thing that they did. It is absurdly powerful, right? It's really impressive. It's a great piece of technology that will allow people to make experiences within Fortnite in the same way that whole games end up being made within Roblox. I mean, do you remember when the internet exploded because somebody basically made Call of Duty 4 inside Roblox and it played really damn well? That's basically, the thing. Yes, having a game engine business, right, with all that licensing and stuff, that's absolutely fantastic. But if you also basically have your own metaverse with hundreds of millions of users and all of that economy, and you're skimming off all of that earnings, yeah, that's absolutely going to be great. The thing is, though, they were burning too much money, I suppose, in some of the more traditional things like having, say, Mediatonic exist, to really just have a sustainable business. Quite interesting. He basically said he had been long optimistic that they could power through this transition. So this is the transition, I think, from, the engine business and Fortnite being super successful, through Fortnite not having as much money coming in, to its transformation into that large metaverse product that they would expect to generate a hell of a lot of money. But ultimately, he says that in retrospect, that was unrealistic. While Fortnite is starting to grow again, the growth is driven primarily by creator content with significant revenue sharing. So that's the thing that is actually quite interesting. Creator content. That's stuff that people are making on Fortnite as a platform. He says this is a lower margin business than when, of course, Fortnite Battle Royale took off and it began to fund the company's expansion. And essentially what's happened here is unit economics. They've somewhat changed. It's growing, but it's growing in a way that doesn't really earn as much, like revenue per transaction or whatever. And basically says that, like, look, we tried to cut costs, we've zeroed hiring, we're cutting our operational spend and things like marketing and events, but we ended up far short of financial sustainability. There you go. And I think the reason why I'd want to bring this one up, of course, about so many other waves of layoffs, it is that I think whenever things are a bit smaller and decentralized, right? So you've got loads and loads and loads of companies, and, they're not all owned by one body. You got loads of different companies, loads of different publishers. Yeah, what's going to happen when there's big financial turmoil? A bunch of them will get called off. The weakest ones, the strongest ones will remain. There's a degree of, I think, bend, don't break there. But when we see these really, humongous waves of acquisitions, you can have a situation where, say, you are a developer who's been acquired by the Embracer Group, and you, the actual developer, you could be in profit. You could be, net contributor to the group. Things could actually be good, but the corporate wins could change, and you're just a line item, right? You're just something in an Excel sheet, and you get cut. So a lot of this M&A stuff, I do just have to wonder, is it producing a lot of fragility in the game sector? And ultimately, are a lot of these staff going to get jobs in games again? Or are we just going to lose that talent? I suppose that's really just my point. All this mergers and acquisitions, I think, has added a degree of fragility to the games market. I think other industries maybe will be able to slurp those people up, and we'll kind of lose. Okay, next then, let's try to work out what the hell is going on with the Knights of the Old Republic remake. This is weird. So, in 2021, developer Asper announced that they were remaking Knights of the Old Republic as a PS5 exclusive. They were working with Sony and Disney in that. This would have been a full root and branch remake, right? So not like the previous other things that Asper had done, like a full remake. Can you imagine the just the promise of that? Knights of the Republic, like one of the all-time great role-playing games. But in August 2022, we found out that the game was in development hell. Disney, Sony, and the Asper parent company Embracer basically all decided that the game really did need some help. So they gave it to another Embracer-owned studio, Saber Interactive, basically saying that they actually don't expect there to be material delays after the 3 years of existing work. Now, of course, that was all before Embracer restructured their whole goddamn company and sort of imploded a bit. All the fear went into overdrive then when the Sony official YouTube channel delisted the trailer, right? The announcement trailer. They took it down, and they even took down the tweet. This, of course, led to many people thinking, oh god, it's cancelled. Oh no, this is really bad. But then Stephen Totilo reached out, and Sony said that actually, as a part of normal business, they delist assets with licensed music when the licenses expire, and this does kind of make sense. Often, right, those licenses are, they're not in perpetuity, right? Even with partners, you might only have a 5-year license, a 2-year license, whatever it is. But there are still questions from this. Something asked by Totilo and seemingly unanswered. Why would the music license expire for an upcoming game, right, that all 3 relevant parties will have contracts for? That doesn't make any sense. And why would it expire when the only music in the trailer is an arrangement from Star Wars? This is very bizarre. Speculation, I think, is very natural and absolutely warranted here. People basically will be thinking that an overdue, overhyped game that seemingly needed to be rescued by another studio of developers may be one of the big projects on the Embracer Group chopping block, when ultimately they need to cut stuff to actually stop burning money. And of course, we're only a week or so after we saw Sega do the very same thing by cutting their losses with Hyenas, which allegedly, right, this is mad, but allegedly was Sega's most expensive game ever, which, well, I mean, that absolutely has my brain thoroughly scrambled. Who the hell knows, though? I don't really buy this that much. It's just bizarre. Anyway, I imagine we will find out at some stage soon, so do let me know what you think. Okay, next then, BioWare. Kind of sad, actually. Some ex-Bioware developers are suing the company over severance packages. To get you up to speed, BioWare laid off 50 people, including many of their most senior staff who had worked on the original Dragon Age and things like that, contributed, key elements to the games that absolutely built that studio. A 7-staff member cohort who average 14 years of experience between them, they're launching a lawsuit. By the way, that's an average of 14 years. That's not them combining. It's like, out of these 7 people, their average amount of time spent at the company is 14 years. Basically, they're launching a lawsuit because their severance packages are well below industry standards. So this was initially shared by the former technical director, John, and it's quite rough. BioWare was only willing to offer laid-off employees 2 weeks of severance per year of service, rather than the 1 month commonly awarded under other recent labor cases. The lawsuit also claims BioWare was unwilling to include the value of health benefits in the severance package, further shortchanging the departing developers who average 14 years of service each. One depressing fact from this is there were originally 15 developers in this suit, but people had to leave, and they felt compelled to leave because they kind of needed the severance in order to have money in the bank now, ahead of the holiday period, rather than to be risking legal costs and all of that. So quite rough. Some of the impacted staff have been given the impression by BioWare that by asking for increased severance, they may in fact be impacting the development of Dreadwolf with increased costs for the company. If that quantity of money poses that much of a risk, I really am suspicious about what those finances are like. I mean, surely you're only, as a large studio like them, surely that's only a big concern when you are way over time and over budget. I don't know. It definitely doesn't fill me with confidence. Another interesting part here is the Frostbite engine. It's basically called out because, well, BioWare were, their staff, right? They were using this engine, but this, they think, should be another factor in an increased severance package because of the increased difficulty of finding similar work. Because given the choice, who the hell is going to be using the Frostbite engine? Overall, though, I think the point here is that it does paint a rather grim picture of whatever the hell's going on over at BioWare. At the time, by the way, this is what Gary McKay, who is the general manager of BioWare, said about things. "We are doing everything we can to ensure the process is handled with empathy, respect, and clear communication." I think obviously being 50% of what seems to be the industry standard is not that. Next then, a quick PSA for Alan Wake 2. The TLDR here is overall quite good because it turns out it will be shipping with a performance mode. It was kind of a last minute thing, and as somebody who would probably rather play a game like this, honestly, on a really big TV, just chilling out on the couch, either on a PS5 or an Xbox Series X, it is really good that that's going to be there. However, they have confirmed that the Series S will not have that performance mode, which, look, obviously does make a hell of a lot of sense. I don't think this should really be news, but with, say, Baldur's Gate having a exception in terms of hitting feature parity on the Series S, this is another example, I think, of the obvious, and overall I would hope that we're able to normalize the Series S being the 1080-30 budget machine, and it being okay for games to not have parity. At the end of the day, with Gamescom, we had reports of just developers kind of bitching about the Series S being a real pain in the ass because they've got to ship in that, and it's not particularly powerful. Next then, if you're a game developer, you've definitely got a card to target, and that is the 3060, because it's actually the most popular single card on Steam. It is now at 6.27%, and it's dethroned the now second most popular card, the 1650, which of course was from 2020. So there you go. Now, EA Sports. EA Sports, we don't necessarily like them because of their business practices. A very interesting thing, though, is some bad initial indicators from EA Sports FC 2024. Obviously, EA have went away from using the FIFA license. They're just calling it EA Sports Football Club. Well, physical sales for it are down 30% in the UK. Now, you got to take this in context. It is still the second highest selling game of the year behind Tears of the Kingdom. I mean, come on. It is a football game in the UK. Likely this will be the highest selling game in the UK if you were to say add in digital sales. But rather notably though, Switch sales are up. I think likely because EA Sports FC 24 is actually on par with other ports rather than the sort of lesser editions that people tended to get with FIFA. But basically the point here is like year on year box sales are down. Maybe that's because the name recognition of FIFA was actually fairly important. That being said, there are, of course, lovely forms of nastiness going on. There's a $30 pay-to-win loot box for Ultimate Team to make all that money back for them, so that'll absolutely be fine. Yes, a $30 launch week loot box, so that's pretty damn awesome. And also, per the Financial Times, there's been a 25% population increase for premium access numbers that, of course, that's something that's only available via the $100 Ultimate Edition, which basically means maybe some of their numbers are down, but the number that matters the most money is almost certainly not down. Finally, though, something you should be down for trying out is Cocoon. Yeah, Cocoon's basically awesome. It's designed by the lead gameplay designer of Limbo and Inside. It's an indie puzzle game that has captured the imagination of players and critics. You look here, an 88% top critic average, 95% recommending. It's a game small in scope, designed around tightly limited puzzles that test your imagination as you shift between the levels at any time. Basically, it's awesome. You should try it out. It is available on Game Pass, of course, or you can check it out on Steam, where it's currently selling for £16 over here with 97% positive recommendations, which is pretty damn impressive. So I guess congrats to them for that success. Now you've got a cool video game to check out. With that said, I will see you in the next episode.